Welcome to Roots Rishte, a podcast focused on all things South Asian mental health.
We are your co-hosts, two psychologists in the field who are also work besties, wanting to invite you to join us as we speak about patterns and dynamics we see in our clinical work.
We want to have the serious conversations, the topics which are taboo and whispered about, but we also want to celebrate the joys and wins that we experience on a daily basis.
There will be practical applications we hope you can implement in your day-to-day life, which is not like your typical auntie's advice. And just a quick disclaimer, this podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute as a therapeutic relationship or therapeutic advice. Should you want to work with us, please reach out. Hi, Simrat.
Hi, Ambreen.
My name is Dr. Ambreen Basria. I'm a clinical and counseling psychologist, and I am authorized to work in Ontario as well as the state of California.
I'm Dr. Simrat Kaur Padda. I'm also a clinical and counseling psychologist, the founder of Room to Grow Psychological Services, and I'm currently practicing in Ontario, Canada. We are so excited to be here.
Yeah, we are.
Finally. Yeah. This has been a passion project kind of in our mind for a really long time. So we are really excited to be sharing it with the world.
Yeah. And, I think this is something that's so needed because we really need to be able to address a lot of the Southeast Asian perspective and just understand all the things that we see in therapy, as well as just kind of the understanding of what happened in the community too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should tell everyone a little bit about how we met and who we are.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Sure. So I sat down, I decided to do my doctorate in applied clinical psychology, right, at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in Irvine.
Yeah, that's not confusing.
It does not exist anymore. However, the first person I sat down next to was you.
Me.
And by the way, I was born and raised in California. Yeah. So this made sense for me to go to school in Irvine, right? I graduated from the University of California, Irvine, which was right across the street from the Chicago School, right? Mm-hmm. But you, on the other hand.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Canada. Long story, and I'm sure this will kind of pop up in other podcasts as well, so I won't go into the full life story, but 2000... What year did we start?
Oh my gosh, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, 2011, yeah.
Yeah, so born and raised in Canada, spent most of my years growing up in Ontario. I ended up in Burns Lake, British Columbia, a really small town in northern British Columbia. I was there for about 16 months. For clinical experience, it was interesting. It was hard. It was cold. And for the month of January, there was no sun to be seen. And so I decided I needed a change. And at that point, I had done my master's program. And so I decided to go to California for my doctorate program. Didn't know a soul in the state and picked up my stuff and moved to California, sat beside Ambreen. And then it kind of went from there.
There you go. It was history from there, right?
Yeah. So after graduation, I got married, moved back home. And by home, I mean my husband was here in Brampton. My parents are in Ontario. So I just came back home.
Yeah. So for me, home is California. And, I get asked this a lot. How did you move here to Toronto where it's so cold all the time? But I actually did all of my schooling in California. I have a master's in marriage and family therapy. I did that at Loma Linda University. Then obviously I sat next to you in our graduate program to do our doctorate. And then, I went on to do a variety of different experiences for a little while, right? I was in Southern California, and then I moved to San Diego. I was working in the state prison for a little while. Then I moved to Austin for a little bit. And then I moved to the Bay Area for a little bit. And ultimately along the way, ended up meeting my husband, who's from Toronto.
And lived 10 minutes down the road from me.
And that's how we're here.
Yeah. And then we ended up working at the same group practice together. Yep. So really our friendship is very serendipitous in terms of where it started, how randomly it started, and how it's progressed.
Yep.
And so for us to kind of be sitting here and doing this passion project just feels like it was sort of meant to be.
Totally meant to be. Totally meant to be. 10 years in the making.
Yeah. So Roots Rishte. Yeah. That's the focus of this podcast, right? So we want to talk about South Asian mental health. We want to talk about the origins of kind of how we become who we are and the generational patterns and the dynamics and our parents' story and how their story impacts our story. That's really the roots part of our podcast that we're hoping to really dive deep into and really explore.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, right? When we started our field, like for me, it's been 15 years, including my master's degree, right?
Yeah.
And when we started at that time, therapy was still so taboo in the Southeast Asian community.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was telling people that I was going to become a therapist, it was a little bit like, oh,
Yeah.
everyone hesitates, right?
Are you reading my face?
Yeah.
Can you
like,
read
can
my
you
mind?
psychoanalyze me?
Yeah.
And, it's so interesting because even when I was doing clinical work, I never came across a Southeast Asian individual unless it was high risk mental health. Like I'm talking like suicidal, worst of the worst. We never saw it, right?
Yeah.
And then fast forward like 10 years later, not the worst of the worst anymore, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much.
Yeah, super relatable, high functioning, just wanting to, really optimize their life, work through stressors. The clientele now is, much different than kind of that clinical necessity that maybe you were mentioning before.
Exactly, right? And there's so many things that we connect to as well, right? Like marriages, in-law relationship, family relationships, motherhood, right? Like there's just so many different angles that are coming out that are so relatable, but we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. And there's a connection, right? Like, I don't think it's coincidence that we sat beside each other that day in grad school, right? Like, I think there was probably a pull and a familiarity and a commonality. And I think that's kind of where our practices are really kind of what we're kind of seeing right now, right? And so when I started Room to Grow, the focus of the clinic was supposed to be perinatal mental health. And so I had just had my second kid, and I was, in that world of postpartum everything. So specialized in perinatal mental health, did a course on that. And that was really the intent of my practice. And then it just ended up becoming maybe 98% South Asian. And the referrals coming in are saying like, hey, like I'm coming to you because of this. You get it. You get the nuances. There's a connection. There's a familiarity. And it's really great to see. Yeah.
And I think similar for me, right? Like when I left the practice that we were both at, right? I started testing psychological services. And realistically, I was kind of like, okay, I just need to be somewhere that's closer to my kids. It was very personal for me at that point, right? But the referrals that have come in, similar. Like I'm looking for someone that gets this perspective, that understands, that has this ability to be able to go, oh, yeah, this is why this particular suggestion or therapeutic advice or something like that is not going to work because we're Southeast Asian. We have different relatabilities, different perceptions around what family culture and other things mean.
Yeah. Those nuances are so important, right? Like we understand sort of the dynamic in a different level, or the idea of boundary setting. Like what does that actually look like if we're a South Asian client versus maybe another client, right? The difference between Eastern and Western mental health, basically.
Absolutely. And I've seen this becoming like more and more commonplace where people are really looking for relatable ways to address their concerns, right? And I remember this too, like remember when we were in graduate school, there was we hardly had any Southeast Asian professors, right? Much less like professors that could talk to you about the cultural competencies that are needed to be in this particular space.
Yeah. One neat thing to see, though, is I feel like there is a shift that's happening. So a lot of younger sort of the grad students right now, a lot of them are, South Asian in nature. And so I've noticed that a bunch of research projects, a bunch of dissertations, a bunch of theses that happen. They're focused on South Asian mental health. So there's a shift happening, which I think is also exciting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're hoping to offer with this podcast, right? We want to offer digestible episodes where we can talk about very specific elements related to South Asian mental health. But we don't want to just talk about elements. We also want to be able to provide some practical applications, right? So here's the issue. Here's what we see. Here's the dynamic. What can we do about it?
Yeah. Basically, we're not your auntie's advice.
Yes. Yeah. Good segment.
Yeah.
So we will be offering some practical practical applications as well. And it's really to motivate whoever is listening to, seek out this work. And it doesn't have to be with therapy. It can be with, we'll talk about like the importance of having a third space, right? Of having a community, of having different senses of support. And so we just want to empower people that if you're struggling in some of these dynamics that we'll talk about, there's ways that we can start working through them. And some of it might not be comfortable. A lot of it might not be comfortable, but that's what we're kind of here to talk about. The uncomfortable, the taboo, the stuff that other people don't necessarily talk about.
Yeah. It's really about the community, right? Like this is about us coming together. This is about like two psychologists with perspectives that have been different in the field, relatable life experiences, right? And then coming together and just being able to have a conversation about this.
Yeah. And in a way, these are the conversations we already have, right? Like when we meet for coffee or over, like text or whatever, when we're talking about, just consultations, these are the conversations we have. And so to bring them to a wider audience feels very special.
So even though we are now aunties, we will be offering a Not Your Auntie's Advice section.
Yes. We're so excited for what's to come.
Thank you for joining us.